Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prime Flash with me, Dolly Ngonde, on my Media Prime Television. We begin today's edition on a sad note where the principal of government high school, Pinyirada, has been found dead in Yaoundé recently. Mr. Teneng Walters was found lying on the tarred road, dead in Yaoundé with bruises on his body, suggesting he had been roughly beaten before his death. The member rather of the Christian Men Fellowship, CMF SWA, was dressed in his traditional Northwest attire, locally known as a toga, at the time he was discovered lifeless. And on to something developmental. In a bid to correct the life-threatening hazards plastic waste may have on society when littered around, stakeholders from the state, the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, companies around town based focused with the recycling of waste plastic management have held a one-day workshop organized by Ambi Eric, a Cameroonian based in Estonia. In the following report, we get details of the story. Due to an increase in generation, the economy, as well as changing consumption and production patterns, waste plastics are becoming a major stream in solid waste after food and paper waste in Cameroon. It is for this reason that stakeholders from the state, the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, some brewery and plastic recycling companies have been drilled during this one-day training workshop organized by Ambi Eric, an expert in plastic waste management and recycling from the Estonian-based Estipandi Packaging Company, who says one way to better manage and recycle plastic bottles is through the use of barcodes, as he further cites the advantages that will come alongside the adoption of this method.
The main purpose is to make the consumers to be aware it's not good when you get a plastic bottle and after consuming the content of it, you just litter it on the environment. So but if they know that if I buy the plastic bottle, let's say a plastic water drink for 100 francs and you're paying extra 25 francs on top of it, and if you go and return the plastic bottle, you get by at 25 francs, I'm sure consumers, they will not litter the environment with the plastic bottle, they will keep it as much as they can, so that in due course they go to a collecting point and return it there, and they will see their money and collect the check, and they'll be able to have their money back.
While using practical examples from his foreign-based company, Estipandi, the organizer also makes amazing revelations of several end products that can be obtained from the recycling of plastic bottles.
Some plastic bottles can come out one football t-shirt. We also have footballs made out of plastic. We have some pens that are being made.
Impressed by the presentations, the moderator of the PCC alongside other participants had this to say.
When everything will fall into place according to the discussions we had at the workshop, humanity will see the benefits of conserving creation, and we pray that before then people should value creation and keep the environment clean and not to litter the place.
The sanitary condition of the environment is highly threatened because of course there is no decorum. People just litter about. Apart from the fact that it is very poor in the eyes of people, it's also a health hazard.
With this workshop we have had, for me, it's a great breakthrough that is going to enable us to be able to manage and recycle these plastics and keep our environment clean.
And at the end of the workshop, participants have left satisfied with considerations being made on adopting the numerous plastic bottle recycling techniques shared with them on this day. Away from that, we now talk something else where civil society organizations and rights groups continue to wage legal battles for the release of a detained pregnant woman in Cameroon. Calls have multiplied for the release of Antoinette Kongsa, a pregnant woman harassed and detained in Communicado in Boye, southwest region of the country. Some lawyers, led by barrister Edward Liunga Ewule this time around, have filed a habeas corpus asking that the 8-month pregnant woman be freed. It should be noted that these reactions are coming in after those of Barrister Agbo Bala and that of Barrister Tamfu Richard, amongst others, have been made. And in related news, inmates of the Disarmament and Demobilization and Reinsertion Center in Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region in Cameroon, have paid their last honors to their friends who were killed on September 29th under unclear circumstances. The corpses of the two ex-fighters were removed from the Bamenda Regional Hospital mortuary over the weekend and conveyed to Aku Subdivision for burial. During the wake service to honor the fallen inmates, Northwest DDR Coordinator Kum Henry also called on the people of the region and Cameroonians as a whole to be peace crusaders instead of making gains out of the situation. And now we talk something of national interest, where Cameroon's government has launched a 15-day COVID-19 vaccination campaign for all civil servants. The campaign was jointly launched by Public Health Minister Dr. Manauda Malashi and that of the Administrative Reforms Joseph Lay. From November 5th to the 15th, all civil servants on the state's payroll and those on retirement are expected to take the vaccine. According to the press release, vaccination teams from the Public Health Ministry will visit public structures to vaccinate civil servants. The authorities have invited civil servants to massively take the vaccines, which go a long way to permit the country attain health immunity. And still on something developmental, we now take you to talk the sum of 1.9 million francs CFA has been raised to equip the Catholic hospital in Mamfe. An X-ray film printer is expected to be purchased for the St. John of God Hospital in Mamfe, southwest region of Cameroon. This is thanks to a 3,000 euro made to the institution, raised by a group of friends seeking to extend a helping hand by boosting the health domain back home. The event took place in the presence of the Secretary General of the National Episcopal Conference, His Lordship Dr. Gervais Kewi. And we will take you to the southwest region, where calm and normalcy has returned to the city of Buea after the death and burial of Carolaise Enonziale by a gendarmerie officer who later on suffered the same fate from the hands of an angry mob. Meantime, dignitaries, well-wishers, and churches or church leaders continue to sympathize with the bereaved family. Notably, all Presbyterian churches in Cameroon yesterday, Sunday, October 17, made special prayers for children, and the decision was made public by the moderator of the PCC, the Right Reverend Funky Samo Foba. In the same light, Bishop Andrew Nkea has also condemned the brutal killing of the schoolgirl in Boya, while calling on all Christians to continue praying for the restoration of peace in Cameroon. And on to something else, Doctors Without Borders have raised concerns over rising complicated cases of the coronavirus pandemic in the southwest region of Cameroon. Dr. Donatien Shishimbi, medical coordinator of Doctors Without Borders, says that the population must adhere to COVID-19 barrier measures more than ever before in order to stifle the spread of the disease. He was speaking to the press after one of his routine visits to the Boya Regional Hospital Annex. It should be noted that Doctors Without Borders have been working hand in glove with the Boya Regional Hospital and other health facilities in the southwest region to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And on to something else, the Minister of State, Secretary General at the Presidency of Cameroon, has visited AFCON structures in Douala. Ferdinand Gongong, alongside football pundits, Sports Minister Narcisse Mouele-Kombi, were on the field during the fall of the weekend to inspect COVID-19 safety measures as well as to evaluate the level of work and completion. Away from Cameroon, we now take you to Ethiopia, where the country's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the country needs to stop receiving food aid in order to avoid foreign pressure on the government. In his words, if we make sure that this thing called wheat food doesn't enter Ethiopia, 70% of Ethiopia's problems will be solved. He further said Ethiopia's problem is wheat aid, that with wheat aid comes diseases, with wheat aid comes many things, many consequences. If we stop it, many of the problems will be solved, as the Prime Minister was speaking during a visit to a wheat farm in the Oromia region. Meanwhile, Egypt will bar vaccination or unvaccinated public service workers from entering government buildings as from mid next month. A cabinet notice on Sunday said workers would have to be vaccinated or take weekly COVID-19 tests to be allowed into government buildings from the 15th of November. The cabinet also allowed the opening of bathrooms in mosques from Wednesday. The bathrooms were closed in March last year as part of measures to contain the spread of the killer pandemic, coronavirus. While in Sudan, the country's cabinet would also hold an extraordinary meeting this Monday amid an escalating political row between factions of the ruling forces of Freedom and Charge, the FFC. Pro-military Sudanese protesters rallied for a second day on Sunday, aggravating what civilian Prime Minister Abdallah Haddock called the worst and most dangerous crisis of the country's precarious transition. And away from the African continent, we now talk something very devastating where at least 24 persons have been killed in floods in India. Heavy rains caused rivers to overflow in Kerala, washing away homes and trapping people under debris. 5 children are among the dead, and there are fears that the death toll could rise further as many people have been declared missing. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Prime Flash. I've been Dolly Ngonde for presentation. The program has been produced by Ngwa, Desmond. More of this will be yours in 6:30 at our main newscast with Fon Quinta. Up next is In the House with Eileen Sama. We leave you in the company of more interesting programs on Mamida Prime Television. Stay glued.